All right, gang. It is always a pleasure for me to have my guest this week on our show. This dude has been a supporter of the Horrific Network and everything we do since the beginning, man. But he has been the guy who actually opened the door for us to do Sinister Creature Con. And I can say I've done a few pretty rad panels with him there. But he is a awesome author in his journey that has taken him from authoring articles for most popular horror websites to now he is just a horror novelist who has done some really cool projects with your favorite horror celebrities all the way to film adoptions. Like his newest one he's doing an adoption of Chopping Mall, which is very rad. And his original work is also a horror fan's pleasure to read, man. With his most, I would say, since he's been coming to Sinister, the one that we've gotten to watch your kind of journey from concept to you know publication to all the success that it's had with teleportasm,
Hmm.
and now a new book that sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun to read, and I'm sure it was a lot of fun for you to write. Dopefoot, which is like
Dopefoot.
a Bigfoot, cryptid story that takes place at a farm, for cannabis type area,
Yeah,
and
that's
that
the elevator pitch.
yeah, that you know, reading the full synopsis from the press release, I think I'm most excited for this one out of everything that you've done.
Thank
But
you.
man, the man's name is Josh Millican, and we are stoked to have him on the show today. How you doing, buddy?
Doing really good. And yeah, before I came on today, I was thinking about it, and it's probably close to 10 years since the first time me and you hung out. And when I came out to your place in Modesto and we sat around your kitchen table and we talked about the best movies of the year.
Hmm.
That was such a time ago. And Sinister Creature Con, I haven't been to every single one, but I have been every single year. And I think you have too. So we've just walked a ways together. And yeah, it's my journey has been a winding one, and yours has been one of incremental success that has been really wonderful to see
Oh, thank you.
over the years. Yeah, and your whole team gaining a lot of attention and credibility in the horror space. So it's real nice to have this reunion opportunity to catch up with you.
Yeah, for sure, man. And since the panel in October that you guys did, you've read Misery,
Mhm.
the three artists that were on that, or sorry, authors that were on that panel, composed of a bunch of different talented folks, of artists and filmmakers and stuff. Um, but you three, man, seem to be truly like the consistent horror authors that are kind of, at least in the California, Northern California space. If there's a new horror book that hits my feed, or if there's a horror author making an appearance, it seems like it's one of the three of you guys most often. And
Yeah.
the film, the indie film world is a challenge, and you got to bite and scratch and crawl to get noticed. How is it for you in the indie, so to speak? Now, granted, now talking to you now, you're doing these movie adoptions and you're doing all this really rad stuff, but still, you came from an indie author world, and you had to fight to get your work and your name out there. What is that experience like for indie author?
Well, I mean, for this indie author, it's been blessed. The struggle is par for the course. If anything, my struggles have been a lot less than a lot of people. I got into writing books a little later in life, and I think that gave me a little more experience, a little more practice,
Mm,
just being a writer for so many years. Um, but it's an ever changing world. When I first started writing books, the big change was, that everything's going on to ebook and it's online now and it's on
Hmm.
Kindle,
Hmm.
and that's a big thing. And now everything is AI is like sucking the oxygen out of the
Hmm.
room anytime it comes to conversations about the indie space, whether it's literature or art or even film now. Which reminds me, you've got to send me some clips of that panel we did. Like I think I had some zingers when I was talking about AI, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
again when I was talking about how I'm such a shitty self promoter. Those would be funny. You got to send me those little clips. I'm gonna start making more. I'm doing more on Instagram, to
yeah,
try to like be a little bit more of a personality, since that's such an important component of
yeah.
selling your book. Again, what's it been like for me? I'm slowly getting back onto social media. It's easy for me to be on social media when I was part of Dread Central, because I was part of something that was bigger than myself. So, I
Hmm.
was standing on the shoulders of giants. It's always been a little bit hard for me to tout my own self worth. So, it's been different. But something else I wanted to circle back on too, because you mentioned, some writers you keep hearing about. I've actually been teaming up with a couple other writers who have
Hmm.
a Northern California presence. Just kind of wanted to shout out to them. Allison Mick. She's actually based in Los Angeles right now, but she just came out with an incredible book called Humboldt Cut, which
Hmm.
is about it takes place in the coastal redwoods of Humboldt County. There's a cryptid feature. There's a eco horror aspect to it, generational trauma. It's really interesting. And I've also hooked up with Bitter Corella, who lives in Chico, and
Hmm.
they have released a book called Moonflow that came out last year and it just got nominated for a Bram Stoker Award. That one takes place in the forests of Northern California. Some mushroom hunters run afoul of a feminist cult.
Oh
And
shit.
Dopefoot's coming out in just a few months. Like I said, Bigfoot on a cannabis farm, stalking a cannabis farm, or is it Bigfoot? You don't know. You have to read it.
Hmm.
We kind of came together organically, the three of us realizing that we all had sort of geography specific horror going on right now. Beyond eco horror, which is just a huge umbrella, we're getting into kind of a very region specific kind of horror. And there's like Southern California noir, which or it kind of just has its own distinct quality. But there isn't really a well okay what I meant to say was there's like a Southern California gothic aesthetic that really is just kind of like a repackaging of noir. But what Bitter and Allison and I kind of realized when we were talking about our works, when I was looking at how Allison's book was being received, the term redwood gothic came up, and that was like really brilliant because you got the imagery with the vibe, and I think it works really well in the Northern California sense. So anyway, I've hooked up with these incredible writers. Hopefully, I'll be bringing them out to Sinister Creature Con with me, and we're going to try to do some other events and do a whole little Northern California, Pacific Northwest tour sort of thing.
That's awesome, dude. I think that when you read a book that is from your geographical location, you automatically like you're already connecting to it on an emotional level. It makes you more
Yeah,
excited to read it. So that's cool that you guys are doing something collaboratively because all in the same vein. That's a cool idea.
yeah. We're kind of for now we call ourselves the Dark Woods Project. A collective of forest horror authors, and we just think that coming together as a unit kind of makes us a little more interesting to people who might be timid about coming out to see a single author, or try to go to an event with a new author they don't know, or an author who they think that maybe they don't can't relate to. When you got like a crew of diverse yet related authors going out, you can bring in bigger crowds and things like that. So it just seemed like a lot of benefits to teaming up. And
Hmm.
we're hoping to come out to, like I mentioned, Sinister Creature Con. got to pitch a panel on a redwood gothic, horror, region specific horror in Northern California, dark woodland horror. Have
Mm-hmm.
me and Bitter and Allison all out, and I
No,
think it'd be a great time.
no, I think it would be very cool. The again the fact that just talking sinister, but that whole location, the horror community in Northern California is really strong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would put horror movies in the area, Fresno to, you know, the state line going, north probably. The horror community that we have been to is really passionate about, and that's not saying that it's not in anywhere else, but I don't see in Northern California too many science fiction conventions. I don't see, too many romantic comedy conventions, but I do see a few horror conventions, and they're all pretty well attended. So the fact that you guys are doing this, book wise, I imagine it will create quite a following.
Well, we hope so. Right after Sinister Creature Con in June, we have an event at Bloodstone Books in Sacramento. So we are trying to like extend it as long as possible into a little bit of a summer tour because like I said, Humboldt Cut just came out today, and Moonflow came out last year. Dopefoot's coming out this summer. It'll be out right around Sinister Creature Con. Actually, Dopefoot comes out on the 16th, and I think Sinister Creature Con starts on the 20th. So I'm going to parlay my whole book launch into
Mm,
the Sinister Creature Con experience. Hoping to have Allison, Mick, and Bitter Corella there with me. Just have a big forest horror theme extravaganza as part of Sinister Creature Con. That's what I'm kind of envisioning and manifesting.
sure. Um, I think that watching you specifically, it's been really fun to watch your choices of what you write about kind of evolve, because the last time you were on this show, uh, teleportasm was very new, so you were very much in that world and wanting to talk about that, and since then you have done several film adoptions.
Mm-hmm.
What made you kind of want to add that to your repertoire? Were you approached by filmmakers, or did you seek one of them out to try this? How did you begin doing that?
Sure. My first books were published by Encyclopocalypse, Deeper Than Hell and Septum. And primary Encyclopocalypse, their bread and butter is actually film novelization. So they had a lot of film rights that they would, hire authors to develop, and they had a number out already, and they were always trying to bring in new IPs. And so I knew a couple filmmakers, so I helped parlay a couple deals, sort of hoping to be the author chosen to write those.
Mm,
Basically, I had just become a new author, and I was going out to conventions and vendor, having a vendor table at events and whatnot. But if you only have one or two books, it's really tough, So I wanted to like write a lot of books really fast, and
mm,
with a novelization, you can actually write one or two of those a year. So I parlayed, a deal for myself with Forbidden Zone and for Circus of the Dead, and then
mm,
I was hired for All Through the House and Chopping Mall. So yeah, it's like you get hired. It's like a job. It's not like when you're writing your own thing and then it's your IP. So there's a little bit less of an emotional connection to it. At the same time, I'm really proud of some of the writing I did. I think it's very entertaining. Novelizations are part of a whole like pulp tradition that really goes back a long, long time, and it's fun. And I actually just pitched not quite a novelization, but I just pitched like something that would take place in the same universe as a 90s horror franchise that is just below really popular. It's definitely B movie popular. It's
mm.
just below mainstream popular, but I'm kind of excited about that. So maybe I'll have something to announce before too much longer.
Wow, and it's a franchise, so that's like multiple things that could be done with it. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, did doing that, like, I don't know, for me, there's been people that have come to me since this whole ghost executioners thing, and they have, given me ideas. You should make this. Like, I have this. Would you want to check this out? With you, like, you're getting to novelize these movies. I would feel like that kind of gives you a different kind of pressure about the thing, doesn't it?
Sure. I mean, yes and no. I mean, the pressure is that you're not going to write something that the filmmaker isn't going to like.
Hmm.
And, all of these movies I write novelization for, each one has a very enthusiastic, niche audience. And those are the people you're really writing it for. So I'm not going to rewrite Circus of the Dead in a way that doesn't pay tribute to what the fans really love about the film. So, there's pressure in terms of, okay, the writer has to sign off on this, that they approve, and I have to feel confident that the people who love the film are going to love the book as well, that it's going to enhance the cinematic experience. But at the same time, you just don't get as emotionally invested as you do with your own work. When the job's done, it's kind of done, and I
Yeah.
just kind of move on. When Teleportasm was over, I was really sad. And same thing with Dopefoot, because I created these whole worlds and I invented these characters who I had spent, months and months hanging out with,
Mhm.
on a very intimate, intense level. So yeah, writing novelizations was a good way for me as an emerging author to bulk out my library of work,
Mhm.
in a way that kind of like kept me sharp, while I worked on my more serious endeavors. I will say though, writing novelizations has had an influence on me as I've done more of them. For the first time, Dopefoot is written in present tense, and I'd never written one of my own novels in present tense before. But I started doing that with novelizations for the main reason, screenplays are written in present tense, right?
Mhm.
So, when you start with the backbone of a screenplay, you're already in the present tense. And then I realized, all of cinema is in the present tense. Even if you're watching a period piece, when you watch a film and you're, committed to that world, you're in the moment as it's happening for the very first time, no matter how many times you've seen it. So I decided to write Dopefoot in the present tense. And I really had a lot of fun with that. And I think it made it more cinematic. And I think it kept it more tense because it was actually in the moment.
Mhm.
You don't know how it's going to turn out because this isn't something that, happened in the past. And, things at least worked out for another 30 pages. You just don't know, where this is going to go. So,
Do you think that with your own original, you mentioned it being, you know, kind of emotional once it's done? I would akin that to like when a film is finished and you watch it for the first time type of a feeling. Um,
I
the
bet, it's really intense to be with those people. And then, it's done. And, with the film, you're parting with actual people and connections you've made. One of the differences, because, I've been behind the scenes for a lot of films. Writing novels is such a lonely experience.
mm,
So, by the time you get to the point where you're editing it and you're actually communicating with another person, this is really awesome. And then, getting to this point where you finally get to start talking about the new work on podcasts and in interviews and stuff, that's like when it's like, okay, now it's worth it, because yeah, it's like I've had this whole relationship with these characters that no one else has met yet because the book hasn't even been released yet, and I can't even tell you too much about them yet. At the same time, let's talk about it. Let's talk
well,
about Dopefoot.
so yeah, man. Like, let's talk about Dopefoot. Like, what? I mean, the answer to the question, "What was your inspiration?" is seems pretty obvious. But talk me through your experience and where the inspiration, like, where you really pulled it out of.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been a Bigfoot fan, being from California. I was raised kind of always thinking Bigfoot was real because I'd seen like the documentaries on him on TV as a kid growing up. And then, traveling to Northern California and, knowing that I was in, quote unquote Bigfoot country, I think the first article I ever wrote for Dread Central was talking about some of my favorite Bigfoot movies and, kind of like the connection I feel to Bigfoot as a Californian. So, I've been living in LA. I had been living in LA exclusively for the past 4 years. Last year, I started moving around between Los Angeles and Northern California. I'm kind of based in LA, but I'm spending a lot of time in Northern California. It was a lot of big changes, and Northern California is just such a different environment from Los Angeles. And when I say Northern California, I'm not even talking about the Bay Area or Sacramento. We're really up here, trees and winding roads. And so I was like, it was a good time to visit my love of Bigfoot, now that I was closer to the region that actually spawned the legend, where the name Bigfoot was actually coined. So it was my way of kind of like embracing my new environment. I don't think it's not like I had been itching to write a Bigfoot book. At the same time, I heard about another Bigfoot book coming out that had like a great title, and I was like, oh man, that's a great title. And then I started thinking about what a great title for a Bigfoot book would be. I came up with Dopefoot before I even had the plot.
But you knew you wanted that title.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you come up with a title like that, you got to go with it.
Yeah.
And all I knew at that point was it was going to be a cryptid, a Bigfoot cryptid, and a cannabis farm. And finding how to do it was
Excuse the pun,
the
but
run.
it's such a dope thing. Like I can imagine the name Dopefoot being on shirts, being on stickers, all kinds of shit. Like
Yeah,
it's a dope name.
it is. And, of course, I did a little Google search to make sure I wasn't like going to crib someone else's podcast name, or there wasn't already a book or a band called Dopefoot that was going to sue me. The only thing I found was like a blog, like a footwear blog. Is some guy,
Oh,
some sneakerhead,
yeah.
had started a blog called Dopefoot, but that had already been parlayed into a bigger company name. So,
Mm.
yeah, like now if you go to Google and type in Dopefoot, you're probably gonna get a little blurb about my book coming out. It's awesome to feel like you tap into something that's like there's nothing else like it, and it's unique and it's singular. Kind of with teleportasm too, because I made up that word. So,
Where you know the Dopefoot story, like what about our protagonist? Like give us, kind of like the synopsis you want to give us without giving us, spoilers and whatnot. What do you want the people watching or listening to kind of know about your story?
yeah, absolutely. It's not quite a coming of age story, because it's not about young adults. It's about adults. It's about new adults, people in their mid-20s who maybe aren't making the best decisions. But the main character is a college dropout, and he really doesn't know what to do with himself. And he meets a girl at a reggae festival who tells him all about how cool it is to work on a cannabis farm, to be a trimmer. And it's a great life, and you make a lot of money, and you have a lot of friends. And he's really fascinated by the possibility of that. So she hooks him up with a job, not on the farm she works at, just with some friends of hers, and he's instantly brought into this world that is much darker than he anticipated. And some of my inspiration for this was the Murder Mountain documentary on Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
which talked about the reality of the cannabis industry in Garberville and Humboldt County. The whole trimigrant culture, and how the realities don't always match up with, or yeah, the expectations and the realities don't always match. So this is who the main character is. He thinks he's going to go to like a 24/7 pot party. He finds out he's going to have to work hard in this really shady industry with people who he's not sure he can trust, surrounded by hardcore drugs that he didn't expect to have anything to do with the cannabis industry. And So he's really kind of like a fish out of water. No one uses their real name in this book because
Mm.
it's better for, when you're in an illegal black market, that no one knows each other's names. He doesn't have a name when he arrives. So because he looks so dopey, they just call him Harmless. So his name is Harmless. And he arrives at this pot farm thinking he's going to have a grand old time and realizes that it's going to be a really scary time. And that's before a potential cryptid even pokes his head around a corner.
Damn, that's a book in itself. And like that is one thing I will say from knowing some people, family members actually, that have worked up in Northern California doing that. Um, Friends and family. One of my friends' family owns a farm up there,
Mm-hmm.
and it is its own universe the second that you cross the property line.
Yeah. And it's the
And
Wild West, out in this national, they call it national park, but it's really some of the most rugged wilderness in the entire country. And just like not family, but I had, living in the Bay Area, I had met people connected to this industry who had worked on farms like this. And that's where I learned about the kind of weaponry that's used to monitor those locations, the kind of consequences for
mhm.
trespassing and things like that. And all of this was confirmed in this Murder Mountain documentary that I saw. And yeah, it's when I came up with Dopefoot and I knew that it was going to be cryptid in Northern California, cannabis, that's when I started, putting all my creative tendrils out. And that's, I started thinking about this industry. And it's also pretty timely. We're basically too late to talk about how legalization changed the cannabis industry because it happened over the past 20 years. The
Yeah.
cannabis industry that used to be is gone. It's this whole, corporate business thing. But we
Mhm.
are entering a new phase with cannabis, with it being descheduled. It's no longer on the list of the worst drugs in the world, which means there's going to be wider cannabis acceptance. So it's a good time for this book that gives kind of like a window into the past to show up and show people like this is kind of where it stands now that we're on the verge of a new era in cannabis, perhaps.
You would hope. I mean, it seems like the thing that should be accepted pretty widely. There's definitely way bigger fucking problems that
Well,
that are out there right now.
Colorado changed the game when they taxed it, and then it's like, okay, yeah, now we have $3 billion more to spend on our cities this year, and all the other states were like, oh man, we're going to legalize cannabis now too. Why did we wait so long? And now a few years later, you've got it being taken off of the class 1 schedule, schedule A. It's no longer considered something as bad as heroin. So it's good times. People are going to be looking at the medicinal end of things, like they have been all this time. It's just now it's going to have a lot more credence.
Yeah. The thing too with this is, you know, you had mentioned kind of approaching your work cinematically. This definitely, as you're describing it, plays out like a movie in my mind as the words are coming out of your mouth. Like my question to you when you created it and authored it, what subgenre did you choose? Because I could see this story playing out in multiple different fashions. I could see
Mhm.
it playing out in the Blumhouse, for lack of a better term, traditional horror movie fashion. I could also see it playing out in like the Lloyd Kaufman trauma, just completely
Mhm.
over the top fashion. What so when you authored it, how did you see the things play out in your mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted it to be a Bigfoot story first and foremost. That's creature, that's cryptid, that's forest, that's big howling, hulking, primal man in the darkness of the forest.
Mm,
So that was the main thing. that said, I really wanted it to be kind of like the best Bigfoot book ever. And not to sound full of myself or anything, but I thought that for lack of a better term, it would be easy. Not that writing any book was easy, but uh, Bigfoot is such a niche subgenre. I mean, everyone loves Bigfoot, but when you're writing about Bigfoot, there are certain parameters. It's either Bigfoot is real, or it's someone creating the illusion of Bigfoot for nefarious purposes. It's one or the other, and you always have these elements. And I wanted to kind of throw all that out of the door. So there's no camping in Dopefoot. It has nothing to do with campers or hikers. This is outside of the normal Bigfoot strata. These aren't cryptid hunters.
Yeah,
And if I did my job right, Bigfoot is kind of just in the background, literally, like, and figuratively, like, is he peeking out from behind the trees? And also, these characters have more pressing issues as the book continues,
sure.
than the potential of there being a cryptid in their midst. And that's really one of the themes of it too. It's like, we're all scared of Bigfoot, but at the same time, it's such a big legend, and it includes this whole gentle giant aspect of it, this spiritual aspect of it that the native tribes have given it, Sasquatch, and the reverence given to it. So even if you're scared of like Bigfoot because of the Bigfoot horror, there's always like this benevolence that's implied to be under the fur, in the heart, under the surface. And what were we talking about?
No, the style and the way that you describe it
Oh
right
yeah.
now, man, it sounds like a freaking like Shawshank Redemption, Green
It's
Mile, Stephen King type thing, dog.
thank you. Well, like I said, I wanted it to be something more, and it became something much more than I expected. First of all, it's not just a Bigfoot book by any stretch anymore. This really is the closest thing I've written to a great American novel. This is my Catcher in the Rye, um, at least up till this point. So there's an emotional anchor to it that I didn't expect there to be.
Mm,
And also, not only did I try to defy a lot of the or at least expand on or bring something new to the established Bigfoot tropes, I really just wanted to bring in new and exciting elements, and I hope I did. I hope I did.
damn. Yeah, that's super exciting,
See,
man.
I told you, man, it's like the writing is such a solitary process that when I finally get a chance to talk about it, it's like the dam broke. You know what I'm saying?
No, man. Yeah, I get it, and I get how that probably felt for you, um, as you were writing it too, because the whole time, that's the thing. Like the film we're making right now, this is the first film. The two. It started. The first one started as an 11-minute thesis project for
Right.
graduating film school. The next one was 40 minutes long, and now this one's going to be feature length. But the success of the first two have now kind of granted us, avenues to talk to get some really cool people attached to this third one. Anastasia,
Absolutely.
yeah, Anastasia Elfman and all that stuff. The difference as we're hitting the milestones that you don't have with you is people on the film crew reminding you like this is the biggest thing you've ever fucking done.
Right.
Like blah
Right.
blah blah blah. Like this is such a fucking dope thing and blah blah blah. And it's like you're constantly reminded of what you're doing, and that definitely starts to mess with your mind a little bit. You gotta like fucking chill the
Sure.
fuck out and you refocus and you just realize, yeah, we are here type of a thing. With you writing that thing by yourself,
It's like doing an entire movie on spec, right? Not
you're
showing it to anyone until it's finished.
yeah,
So
there's no outlet for you.
right, right.
You
There's no one patting you on the back along the way, going like, "Oh, the end result is going to be exactly how you want." You're like
yeah,
figuring it out, and yeah, it's wild. That's why I really love having the opportunity to connect with folks like you and just talk all about Bigfoot and Dopefoot and horror and this crazy, crazy life, crazy world.
Well, to hear you say it's your Catcher in the Rye, that gives me, fucking goosebumps, bro. I
Thank
mean,
you, thank you.
that's pretty awesome to go back to the Crypt TV days,
Yeah,
which I mean, you can feel however you want to feel about the current status of Crypt TV and the journey in which Crypt TV went on. Um, that's a conversation for a different day. You can make a
you're
we could write,
reminding me. Oh, go ahead.
I was you could write a fucking book about Crypt TV.
Yeah, yeah.
100%.
That reminds me though, when you say Crypt TV, that was 2016. So we are at the 10 year of when we first started, like,
Yeah, this
entering the same circles. We've known each other a full decade now, you and me.
yeah, that's crazy.
It is crazy, and we're doing the same conventions, in the same world in a lot of spaces, and we've both kind of weathered the storm. Northern California is small compared to Southern California, but like you mentioned too, the horror scene up here in Northern California is awesome. And I lived in the Bay Area, and I never found anything as awesome in Oakland or the East Bay or even in San Francisco. I think there's kind of some awesome stuff down in San Jose, but you can go north to Sacramento and find this great community. That our buddy Tim has really curated over the past decade as well. Our friend Tim does the Sinister Creature Con and the Love Horror Film Festival. Are you going to be at it next weekend, by the way, this coming weekend?
No, I will actually be in San Francisco for some stuff. So I will miss it, but that
Bummer. I'll
is
be there. I'll be there.
uh yeah, it's always a good one to go to, man. There's always
Yeah.
some really cool stuff playing at the Sac Horror Film Festival.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, Sacramento's a good place. So I'm glad that I wrote something that kind of connects me to the location. That it was my way of embracing all of Northern California now that I was going to be spending so much time here, and it really is for Northern California.
How long did it take you to do?
I mean, the first draft was in about 10 or 12 weeks, and then it was good enough to start shopping it around. And yeah, I signed it probably 6 or 7 months ago. So it's actually been, and then there are 5 more months to go until it's released. So it's again, it's like a exciting but slow process, and then you start getting towards release day and everything just gets real exciting.
Yeah, that's super dope.
It's basically been my entire 2025, and which I'm happy because 2025 otherwise was a really crappy year, but it's
Mm.
the year I wrote Dopefoot. It's the year Dopefoot developed. Dopefoot's the best thing I've ever written, so there's that. And now, if Dopefoot succeeds in the ways I really hope it will, then it'll all be worth it. Then it'll be like, I'm really glad, there was a plan for me to arrive in Northern California and have these experiences and connect with these type of people. And Dopefoot's the right book for the right time.
That's awesome, buddy.
Thank you.
Where so you said it comes out in like 5 months.
Yeah.
Once it is available, where is it gonna be for sale?
Sure, yeah. It's coming out June 16th. And it's going to be available pretty much everywhere books are sold. You'll be able to get it directly from the publisher, which is Mad Axe Media. They've got a really awesome Instagram presence, really easy to search. Just put those words together, Mad Axe Media. There is an E in Axe. And we might be adding some bookmarks and some stickers or something if you buy it directly from the source. Otherwise, you'll be able to get it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and books for sale, all of them really. And it's any store would be able to order it for their stock. It's distributed by Ingram Spark, so it can go anywhere in the country if people are interested about it. If it gets some good buzz, it can get directly in your hands wherever you are, and it can get into a bookstore or a bookshop if you run one of those and you start hearing some good things about Dopefoot.
Hold up the poster that you had.
The book
Yeah.
cover The book cover is by Joey Powell, who is also the guy who runs um, Mad Axe Media, and yeah, the book cover just really encapsulates a lot of the themes and the vibe of the book in such a really amazing way. And I also want to show off here. Dopefoot just got an amazing blurb. V. Castro is a Bram Stoker award winning author. She
Mm.
wrote Goddess of Filth, and she actually just got nominated for a Bram Stoker Award for 2025, which will be awarded in 2026 for her collection, The Pink Agave Hotel, from Clash Books. So she is an amazing, well-known, well-respected author. She also writes in IPs. She wrote some of the Alien concept stuff. She wrote Alien Vasquez.
Mm.
So she's worked in established IPs and made a great name for herself. Anyway, V. Castro said that Dopefoot is a perfect summer read, and it's the best Bigfoot lore book she's ever read. So I hope people will consider checking it out for a summer read, and I hope it really does resonate with people who love Bigfoot as much as I do.
That's awesome, buddy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Where can everybody keep track of you?
Keep track of me on Instagram is pretty much the easiest at this point. I'm on Twitter and I'm on Facebook. Because I'm an old guy. Excuse me. I still have 5,000 followers on Facebook. I still have, excuse me, maybe 6,000 on X, or at least I did when it was still Twitter. Only got about a grand, only got about 1,000 on Insta, but I'm trying to make more of a impression there. I'm doing more daily posts and talking a little bit more about Dopefoot, behind the scenes, things that inspired me, things like that. So Joshua underscore Millican is my Instagram handle. So find me there, and let's stay in touch.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you so much for coming on board. And I can't wait to check out Dopefoot. Can't wait to see what your next uh, movie adoption could be, especially with the tease you gave us
Oh
about
yeah,
it
I'll definitely
being
let you know.
attached to a franchise and all the good stuff coming out of you, sir. So we definitely, until we get you on the show again, but look
Yeah,
forward to seeing everything, buddy.
thank you too. And I really think that with it seems like Sinister Creature Con is a million years away. It's going to be here before we know it, and I have a feeling that this is going to be a really good one for us all. I have already talked to Tim about including a Dopefoot book launch aspect to it all. So with you there doing your thing, hopefully having a great Redwood Gothic panel and Tim doing his thing. Hopefully, it's just going to be a really great time this summer.
Dope, man. Well, we will definitely get you back on, either at Sinister or definitely around the time the book comes out and it's available to do you get you back on the podcast to promote its actual release day.
Yeah, and once you've read it and once it's already been released, we can talk about spoilers. I can get into all the real nitty gritty of it because I guarantee that people who love Bigfoot are going to love it. And I guarantee there are a few surprises in there that are going to have everyone just going WTF. So I can't wait to talk about those moments with you all.
Awesome, buddy. Well, everybody, make sure you keep an eye on Josh on social media. Make sure you stay tuned. We'll put a link to Josh's socials so you can kind of track the release of Dopefoot. But we will definitely be posting about it later on down this year when it does release. But until then, make sure you check out Josh's works in the show notes. And